there are certain ground realities today in terms of the monsoon. It could be worse than 7% less, people are saying now. Then there is this whole Iraq crisis. We know the impact of the ISIS making inroads into Iraq. You know, we import huge amounts of oil from Iraq. And the third fact is the economy that you've inherited. You have committed payments on various subsidies. So how much legroom does Mr. Jaitley really have to start with, Omkar Goswami? The most he can do, I mean, my guess would be he'd only do some strong signaling. Yeah.
Arnab, he has, admittedly, I think all of us agree that he has relatively little legroom. And part of that is the last 3 years of fudging, and there's no question about it. The point is that there is still ways of reducing expenditure. There are still ways of raising non-tax revenue. As I said to you, there is a substantial amount of non-tax revenue that can be got from disinvestment. There are other ways of raising non-tax revenue. There are ways of giving the right kind of signal. It is unlikely that he is going to have 4.6 or 4.1 is out of the question. It's unlikely that he's going to have 4.6. He should simply say that there is, as everyone said, including Meghnad, that there's been a total sleight of hand. This is complete nonsense that you've been fed over the last 2 years. It doesn't matter. There are only 44 fellows at Lok Sabha, so it doesn't matter. And you have to say what the true picture is. And given the true picture, I'm constrained. However, that doesn't mean that reforms are going to stop. My first reform, for instance, as I said to you, is I'm getting rid of the retrospective tax legislation. My second reform, if it's possible, is I'm getting rid of the dividend distribution tax. Let some things, let sentiments boom, and then put a few tough conditions as you go along. You can't do everything in one budget. He hasn't had the time, but he can still negotiate and do it well. And remember one thing, the moment you think you can go slow on reforms, you can kiss reforms goodbye. Yeah. Because sitting in every ministry are babus who do not wish it to happen.
Yeah. I really must say one point, Arnab, on what Dr. Omkar Goswami said. He's talking about keeping the sentiment going. The sentiment he's talking about is retrospective tax and dividend tax. The sentiment will be affected in the markets and in corporate India.
And that will help divestment.
And the cuts will happen for the real people because the food subsidy will go. These are two different audiences that you are, one doesn't compensate the other or balance the other. Because
the food subsidy, by the way, Navika, the food subsidy does not go.
Now, Arnab, I want to come in here.
You can't even reduce
Arnab,
it because it's a political problem.
1 minute, 90,000
Omkar, can I just come in here, yaar?
Budgeted for 12, 13, 14.
But Davika,
90,000 crores.
But Davika, why 13, do you 14. Say the food subsidy
goes? All I'm
goes?
saying is, if you were to reduce that, by 10%, 9,000 crores, nothing will happen. Nothing. Zero.
So he's not saying food subsidies will go. No, what Omkar Goswami is saying, and we really must bring this discussion to fundamentals. What Omkar Goswami, by the way, Omkar Goswami, you are going to be known as the next Mr. 10%. You've referred to 10% about 10 times in the course of the program. You want to shave off 10% here and 10% there, Omkar Goswami. The fact is this, that you don't really remove anything, he says. He says, just tighten it up, make it more efficient. But gentlemen, if we agree there is no leg room, there's a crisis in Iraq, there's a weak monsoon, you've inherited a terrible economy, you've carried forward subsidy payments, then all you can do is some very nice, strong symbolism. What Omkar Goswami's thesis is, and let's spend some time talking about that, is send some very strong messages, criticize the past,
Arnab,
right?
Exactly.
Right, Sanjeev? He's talking.
So what we need.
Yeah. What are the signals you want to see?
Exactly. So what I think they have to do. So I think what they have to do is to look for giving signals which are outside of the fiscal. The point is given how little legroom they have, well, go in for labor reforms. Why not announce major changes in rules and regulations and all kinds of different areas which don't have to be strictly fiscal? That's the point I'm making. This is a great time to give the broader
labor reforms is very little of it is in the center.
That
it can be done in the states.
Arnab, I want to come in here now. I haven't said a word for quite some time.
Yes, Mr. Alag, I know that's unusual.
No, look, what I agree with what Navika said earlier. All of us seem to be saying things which are going to help industry. No way is this budget going to go in that direction. There is some things which need to be done for industry. They're quite right. Whatever, 1 or 2 steps. But what is going to happen to the Aam Aadmi if you don't explain that? This budget will become so pro-industry that they will come in for a massive amount of criticism. They will have to move it away from there.
But Meghnad Desai says all that does not matter.
Calcutta,
Meghnad Desai says you have this terrible Aam Aadmi mindset.
Please, it matters.
It does not matter.
No. The mindset. No, the mindset. I agree with Meghnad in saying don't do this, but don't do it in one shot. But do not forget the Aam Aadmi.
No, what Meghnad Desai is saying is don't carry the burden of onion and brinjal prices. When you're trying to send out a message to the world.
Burdens, yaar. No, 1 second. If you increase
he actually agrees
levels,
with me.
I'm talking about how to deal with the Aam Aadmi. Right. I am saying you have to do a bit of both. You'll have to balance it. You have to take this, but the way we are discussing everything is to give industry the right shape. Let them get their factories going. Let them generate employment. Let them do this. That is not the way the budget is going to be done if I was in their place. There has to be things which is there for the common man as well. And saying, look, we all have to tighten our belt. We are now moving that the lowest level slab we are increasing. No tax there. So a little bit of money comes in to pay for your diesel. You will have to leave diesel open, but you'll have to give them money to pay for it. The average guy, the rich guys don't matter. They are the ones that don't matter in the system. And that's all that we seem to be discussing is the rich guys.
Sunil,
the poor guys can be given some money.
I think
look, Rajiv Kumar, someone onion prices were 100. One last point. Onion prices were 100 rupees a kilo last year. It's 30 rupees this year. There's a saving of 70 rupees there. You got to balance the person's budget. You're spending more here, you're spending less here, and you're finally getting a little more money in your hands. That's the message that has to go to the poor man.
Mr. Alag.
And without that, let me tell you, all the other things are not going to happen.
Yes, Rajiv.
Sunil, you are putting up a straw man which nobody has proposed here so far. I said very clearly that Mr. Jaitley has to tell the industry, sorry, we can't succumb to your pressures. You are saying that this budget is going to be pro-industry, pro-rich. None of us is saying that.
I said we are discussing only points which are pro-industry.
But we are also discussing the point.
So I'd like to ask Sunil a question.
There have to be this overhaul of the CBDC.
A little balance between the two.
Tax net gets widened. 3.5% of our Indian state taxes. It's an absolute travesty. It's a travesty. So what you can do is to raise the lower
fully agree with you, Rajiv.
But at least get the rich into the tax net.
Get more people.
That is what needs to be done. But the other thing that you need to do is to as Sanjeev has been saying, is to use this budget to lay out a reform agenda, a roadmap.
Right.
You know, about FDI and defense.
The industry wants a transparent roadmap. That's all. That's good enough to change the perception.
So if you
lay out a clear, transparent roadmap.
Lay out a roadmap, and tell the people that we are not going to be like the UPA to call the budget an accounting exercise, but the budget will be a statement of government intent on how the government wants to help the poor of the country. The problem in our country is that no finance minister
I think that's
made the
exactly
case
right.
For liberal economics for the poor people, as to how a liberal order, how an open market economy helps the poor. This is the budget
because Rajiv, there is no credible proof that any voter is going to buy into it. And you have had this election after umpteen cycles of food inflation. No, Rajiv, let's be very realistic today. Why did the BJP win the election?
That is totally not true.
No, why did the BJP win the election?
They won it on a slogan of minimum government, maximum governance.
That's what you think, Sanjeev.
It was absolutely unapologetically reform.
No, if you think people in UP were voting for... No, one minute. I must settle this with Sanjeev, my friend Sanjeev.
You will be surprised.
If you think, Sanjeev, that people there in UP and Bihar and elsewhere had bought into a slogan of minimum government, maximum governance, and not on the basis of the fact that vegetable prices went up by 350%. If you think they are buying some kind of corporate slogan, rather than the fact that even salt prices, even namak, even salt was costing more than 100% in the years of UPA, then you'd probably be fooling yourself, Sanjeev.
Yes.
This even fruit prices went up by 100%.
No, but why?
And I think we must be realistic about what Navika is putting on repeatedly here. That containing inflation will have to be a central message and a priority of the government, and anything short of that in this budget will be seen to be a letdown.
Do that.
So what are you going? Why don't we talk about that?
But I don't understand why.
Yeah, but Arnab, I'm saying that.
Why do you think that the average voter was thinking of inflation as being some sort of a socialist? Inflation control.
This was a vote against the Congress government because it could not
perfectly be good at controlling government.
No, Sanjeev, the Congress government could not do anything to control prices. Now the situation is this: you have a weak monsoon, you have inherited a terrible state of the economy in terms of the balance within your budget. Right? And you also have this looming Iraq crisis, which is going to have an impact on fuel prices. You are going to have to do something.
So I'm agreeing with you. This is precisely what I'm saying.
No. So, Mike,
so this is precisely what I'm saying. So you cannot you have very little fiscal room. So begin to do other reforms.
No. That is for investors.
Exactly
That's for global investors. I'm asking you, what about the Aam Aadmi? What do they get?
No, so this is the point.
Person who voted the BJP in, what does he get?
Point is,
what does the Aam Aadmi, the middle class, and by the way, the middle class was a large part of the support base of the BJP. What do they get?
Jobs.
What do they get?
Jobs.
Jobs. When?
Jobs.
4 years from now.
Jobs.
No, what the middle class gets.
That is the point.
No, Arnab, what the middle class gets is better education in the public schools.
Can I come in after Meghnad?
What the middle class gets is a better health. And I tell you, Arnab, people may have been anti-incumbency, but they also voted because Modi kuch karke dikhayega. And this budget has to be about kya karke dikhayega. Better delivery of public services is part of the budget statement. You cannot just pour in money on education without doing the reforms. And what therefore Mr. Jaitley can do is once again raise his resources, improve the revenues, improve the CBDT, and at the same time lay out a statement of how this government will improve the delivery of public services to the people with which they will be benefited. And that's how
as long as there is, I'm coming to you, Omkarda, after Meghnad, this, as long as, I only look at it in a very short-term perspective also sometimes, because Mr. Jaitley will have to promise something that the Aam Aadmi gets immediately and then tell him to have patience for the next 3 or 4 years. I'm just saying from a very broad-term perspective, that's how I'd look at it. What is that something which he can say you're getting in the next 6 months, Meghnad Desai? And don't tell me I have this terrible myopic mindset and all that. There's something he's going to have to give to the people who voted him in. Him in as in the government in.
I think can I first of all say, subsidies don't reduce the rate of inflation, subsidies add to deficits, and subsidies wreck public finances. What we have to, first of all, in order to create room for himself, he has to have a huge amount of money from divestment, which will ease the burden of meeting the expenditure targets that the UPA has not paid for. And then he has to say that within a very quick time, they'll convert all subsidies to direct cash transfer. Direct cash transfer is the only way to have efficient help for the poor. Subsidies are not efficient way of running the economy, and it's time we stop them. And this government has to give that signal early on. In the first budget, very soon, they will stop all these subsidies and they will go to the direct cash transfer for the poor. That is the most important reform they can do, because all these petroleum subsidies, they're not for the middle classes. People who use petrol are rich. People who use LPG are the better off.
So
the people who use diesel, same thing. So we have to really look at the really poor.
No, I'm just curious. On a lighter note, if people who use kerosene are rich, one second. If people who use kerosene are rich, people who use diesel are rich, people who use petrol are rich, then what do the poor use? Aviation fuel.
Kerosene is mainly a black. kerosene is black marketed, as Rajiv said, but they certainly don't use LPG. They use wood and coal for burning.
That's little. That's a.
Go to the UP.
But diesel prices add to the cascading effect as far as inflation is concerned. Because transport prices go up and every single commodity costs more if diesel prices are high. So that also is something that affects the poor.
You can be absolutely certain.
That is always excused.
Okay, Omkar.
Absolutely certain that diesel prices, either officially or otherwise, will be freed up. Okay, you can be 100% certain. I'm going to add one more thing, and this is what Rajiv talked about, and only Rajiv did. I think there is a pretty strong groundswell within, at least in Mr. Jaitley's mind, that a huge amount, well over 350 to 400,000 crores, is being held up in tax litigation. And when we asked the person in charge of this, what were the thresholds? Do you know that an amount of up to after 25 lakhs, the government takes it to the Supreme Court. They litigate to the Supreme Court for a 25 lakh tax demand at that level, okay? I think one of the things you will see, it's not going to be an amnesty, but I think what you're going to see is CBDT being told to settle tax issues quickly, so that by settling, he will be able to get a larger amount of tax revenues locked up. And remember a very simple thing. Budgets are based on cash-based accounting. It's not accrual accounting like companies. So what you get in the end of the year is what you have. So if he can open up the tax revenues by telling the CBDT, stop taking these cases, half of them settle, he is going to get a large amount of tax revenue held up for donkey's years.
Yeah. A senior bureaucrat once told me something like, share that anecdote.
Arnab, just...
Yes. No, go ahead, Rajiv.
Point out that 2.5 lakh crore are held up at the level of the Chief Commissioner appeals.
I know.
Now, and they just blithely said in a response, 90% is recoverable.
Yeah. But Rajiv, once a senior bureaucrat told me that if you challenge me on something that I have done right, I will take you to the High Court. If you challenge me on something I know I have done wrong, I will take you right up to the Supreme Court. That's just on a lighter note, because I think governments can be fairly rigid if they want to.
Such bureaucrats should be turfed out.
But in conclusion, I'd say I think Narendra Modi has taken that message. I've watched his speeches. I've been watching what he says. And I think that when he said this, and I thought this particular quote went unnoticed, he said, I am well aware that my steps may dent the immense love that the country has given to me, but the countrymen will realize that these steps will get the financial health back. I will regain that love. I think it tells me that Modi is working towards...
What a good statement.
Not a 3 month. He's working towards 3 or 4 year roadmap. And I think he'll fight for the elections only in the final year. Gentlemen, it's been lovely talking to you. We'll take these discussions forward. Thank you for joining us on the chat today on what that bitter pill, Kadvi Dawai, could be. Thank you very much.